Do we know if Robert's going to be joining us tonight?
Yes, he actually said he'll be hopping on like right now at 5 o'clock, so he should be hopping in any second.
Hand me the lip gloss. Hand me. This one?
We have some attendees joining now. So to everyone joining, hello, and we will be getting started momentarily.
Okay, so I'm gonna start. Hi, my name is Lux Agamo, and I'll be your moderator for today. I'm with Rise for Youth. We have a bunch of youth here from various different groups that fight for the injustice uh, in their communities. So today we're going to be talking about transforming police with the political climate right now. We think that this is a conversation that needs to be had, and we think that the youth opinion needs to be centralized in that conversation. So I want to thank you to all delegates and legislative officials that came today. Thank you for listening to us. I think we're going to have some great things to say. So I'm going to let each panelist introduce themselves, starting with Cameron. Oh, and just say what group you're with.
Hi, everybody. My name's Cameron Smith. I'm here in Newport News, Virginia. I've worked a little bit with Bobby Scott and Shelley Simons, and I'm here representing National Action Network under Reverend Al Sharpton. And I'm a student at Morehouse College, if I didn't say that.
Okay, next, Ayana.
What am I supposed to be saying?
Just say the group that you're with and your name.
Okay, sorry, I just got in the house. I'm with Rise for Youth, and my name is Ayana Scarden.
And then Kayla.
Me?
Yeah,
Kalia. You fine, you're fine. My name is Kalia. I'm a freshman at Clark Atlanta University, but I reside in Newport News, and I'm here representing Abu Unity.
All right, then we have Destiny.
You're muted.
Sorry, my bad, y'all. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Destiny Williams. I'm a senior at Norfolk State University. I reside in Newport News, Virginia, and I'm representing Rise for Youth and Abu Unity. Thank you.
Okay, and Denisha.
Hello, everyone. My name is Denisha Saunders. I'm 21 years old. I graduated from John Marshall High School in Richmond, Virginia, and I am a Rise for Youth member.
And then not lastly, Kamaya.
There we go. Hi, everybody. My name is Kamaya Williams. I'm 24 years old. I now attend VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, Virginia, and I'm representing Rise for You.
And then lastly, we have Robert.
I don't think Robert has joined yet, but China, you can introduce yourself real quick.
Hello, my name is China. I'm 22. I'm with the organization Us for Us. I'm a student at Thomas Nelson and I reside in Hampton, Virginia.
Okay, so we have one panelist that's not on the call right now, but we're just gonna start letting the delegates introduce themselves. Whoever wants to go first.
Good evening, everybody. I'll start first. My name is Delegate Joshua Cole, and I represent the 28th House District. That's the city of Fredericksburg and Stafford County. And I serve on the Education Committee, Public Safety Committee, and Agriculture Committee. And I'm excited to be here with you all to listen and see some ideas and your experiences.
Thank you for having us with you. I am Betsy Carr, representing Richmond, which is the 69th District, House District. I'm on the Appropriations and Rules and General Laws and Transportation Committees, and have had some connection with Rise for Youth in the past, and very privileged with that, and look forward to learning from you all today and continuing to work with you.
I'm Delegate Patrick Hope. I'm from Arlington County. I chair the House Public Safety Committee. I'm also a member of the Courts of Justice Committee as well, and Health, Welfare, and Institutions Committee. Look forward to the conversation tonight, and thank you so much for organizing it.
Hey there, can you hear me? Okay. Sorry, I'm having some issues over here, but I am Delegate Sia Price. I am from Newport News in the 95th District, and I serve as the chair of the Behavioral Health Subcommittee on Health, Welfare, and Institutions. I'm on the Public Safety Committee, the General Laws, and also the Privileges and Elections.
And I've got a lot of feedback. I hope you all don't hear it. But I'm Delegate Juwan Ward. I represent the 92nd House District right here in the city of Hampton. I am the chair of the Labor and Commerce Committee. I serve on Rules and Transportation.
All right, I think that concludes all of the delegates that we have on our panel tonight. Thank you guys again for coming.
Yes, thank you. So I'm gonna start by asking the panelists a icebreaker. So I'm gonna start with this question. So yeah, just feel free to jump in. Just try not to talk over each other. So the first icebreaker question is, what is the first word that comes to mind when you hear police or police brutality? Why is that word synonymous with policing to you?
I guess I'll start. The first word that comes to my head when I think of the police or police brutality is bullies, because I feel like they taunt people and use their power, to abuse the people that they're supposed to be serving. And that's my outlook on it.
I guess as an older woman, my first word is mama. I raised 3 Black sons, and I have a grandson, and we're telling them the same thing. So when I hear about police, I think of my role as a mother and trying to protect them.
The first word I think of is threat, because police in our present times pose more of a threat to people than they do in terms of helping people, especially that look like us. So, yeah, people are afraid. And when I see police or when I hear policing, I definitely think of threat of some sort or danger.
So when I think of police or police brutality, the first thing I think of is excessive force. And that's just because of everything that we've been seeing on the media, whether it's social media or on TV. Body cam footage is always just overly excessive and uncalled for when it could have de-escalated the situation from the beginning.
Senator Favola, I hope I'm not butchering that, is also on, so I wanted to shout her out. They're listening as well. Okay, so if all the youth panelists are good with that question, I'm going to go into our first category of questions, and that's police brutality. So I'm going to ask the youth panelists about some questions on this. So the first question is, how has seeing the murder of unarmed Black people on social media, especially, impacted you as a young person?
So for me, I'm scared, honestly. When I decided to go to school for social work, my main focus would be to work in the criminal justice field and possibly work with facilities across the state of Virginia. But now that I'm seeing so much in the media and people talking about it and protesting against it and just seeing what's happening to everybody, it scares me. And it makes me feel like, do I really want to step forward and, protest? Do I want to work with them? Do I want to work against them? Um, so I just don't know exactly how to feel anymore, especially in the field that I want to do.
For me, I've wanted to be an attorney since I was, a young kid. So seeing all of this stuff happen makes me want to take action and jump in immediately. So right now I'm in school to become an attorney, hopefully constitutional or civil rights. And right now, it's made me active in my community, especially in terms of like going out to protests. I work with lawyers in my community as well as public servants, and just having discussion with people about how dangerous it can be when confronted with certain situations, wherever it may be, whether it's failure to use a turn signal or a warrant that may be tied to your name. Anything can go left in the matter of seconds. So it's definitely impacted me and inspired me to fulfill and become a practicing attorney so I can help people from the inside.
Okay, so if everyone's good on that question and you feel like everything needs to be said, I'll ask the next question. How has police culture impacted your community? I'm actually going to pass this one on to Kalia to answer first.
All right. So, how has police culture impacted my community? I live in the southeast part of Newport News, so downtown Newport News. And police culture in my community, like anything in any space, is twofold. So on one side, it can be seen as a good practice, and then on the other side, it can be seen as a detriment. Um, Police culture has made the living arrangements where I live tense. It's a very tense situation between the people who live there and then the police district itself. A lot of the times it's because of like pretextual stops, people being stopped for failure to signal or broken tail lights or broken license plate lights or broken third brake lights, and they're getting stopped and they're being held, and there's 3 to 5 police cars behind them for equipment malfunctions, making it seem like there's such a big problem when really it's just a minor traffic infraction. And just recently, in Marshall Courts, there was an incident where there was upwards of 6 to 7 police cars behind this one vehicle. They asked the man, could they search his car? He consented. They flipped his car inside out, basically trying to find whatever they were looking for. And in the background of the video, you can hear they were pulled him over for smell of marijuana. Then it was they pulled him over because of equipment failure. And then so the person who was moderating the video was like, so why is his car being searched if you pulled him over for failing equipment? And the question was dodged at first, but as they kept pressing on, kept pressing on, the response that the officer gave for why the car was being searched was because we can. And so those type of attitudes have been prevalent throughout our community, and it has created such a distrust and a discontent with how officers interact with people in the community.
I want to elaborate on what Kalia said. Um, I agree that the police presence is overpopulating our communities and where we stay and how we, interact as a community is actually traumatizing to definitely to young adults. It's like a second nature that when you hear the police, that you have to be tense all the time, and then it shouldn't even have to be like that at all. So that's the aspect of the culture of the police of how I view.
I'm definitely going to comment on what they just said as well. Both of them were exactly right. I agree with Kalia in terms of it being a two-pronged thing, especially here more recently in our city. Newport News doesn't have the best history when it comes to policing on the streets. And now it's even more problematic because our local governmental officials try and place it's like a mask, sort of like the police are helping us. They do all these programs and stuff. They'll get on the news and have conversations and stuff like that. Like they're doing a lot for the community. But then when you get down to the nitty gritty of it, or, get out on the streets and see what goes on, there's not much difference in change. And it's troubling. And it's troubling when you have a police presence or a police force or governmental entity that's supposed to be designed to make the people feel safe, and in turn it makes them feel unsafe in their own communities. And that's one of the main reasons. Like, Kalia mentioned she lived downtown is not a bad place at all. It's been labeled as a bad place, but it's not. It's actually very beautiful, one of the best places to go in Newport News. And part of the reason that it's labeled as a bad place is because police feel like they need to have a presence down there for whatever reason, maybe because they can or because they want to. And I think partly it's because a lot of people down there look like you and I, African American. When there's African American people, there's trouble, but that's usually what's happening. And I think it's problematic that there is that two-faced part to it, where on one hand, they're trying to make it look like in the public they're this, great organization doing a lot for people in the community. But if you ask and talk with residents are more afraid living in their own community than going to visit family elsewhere. So I think that's very problematic. And I would agree with both of them on that.
So adding to that question that I just asked real quick, do you think that it's also detrimental to the Black community that we like hold police as heroes, or kind of put them on this pedestal when we don't really see them that way?
I think it can be detrimental that they are held kind of as heroes or kind of like this above the law figure, because it kind of makes people feel helpless when they're in a situation where they feel like their rights or their privacies have been infringed on by an agency that they feel like is above them. So when it comes to like telling what has happened to them in cases of over policing or police brutality or trying to find hope in those situations, it kind of deters people from going anywhere because they feel like nothing is going to happen, or that they'll just be put up as this kind of figurehead of what not to do or who not to be, instead of actually getting the help that they need in these type of situations. So I think it can be detrimental, especially in cases of police brutality and excessive force, where people really don't know where to turn because it's an agency that has been put up on this pedestal of they can do no wrong, they're just doing their job.
So that brings me to my next question, and this is on stereotypes of Black youth. So the question is, how has the the stereotype of Black youth impacted you personally? So maybe a personal story or tidbit about that, and then the second part to that is, have these stereotypes led to run-ins with law enforcement? So how has, the way other people, adults, police see Black youth inspired, brought on run-ins with law enforcement? And just make sure to elaborate. So I'm going to pass that to Ayana.
Um, well, I haven't had a run-in with law enforcement, but there was a time in fifth grade where I had an art teacher. She was white, and for some reason, she felt like because I had an issue, like because I'm a kid, of course, I'm not going to be happy all the time. Kids have problems with teachers. Because I had an issue with her one time, she felt like it was okay to ask me, did I not like her because she was white? And I'm a kid, so I didn't know. I didn't think it was that serious, so I didn't end up telling my mom until a few days later. And she was like, "Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because this is more serious than I actually thought it was." The art teacher ended up kicking me out of her class for the rest of the year. I didn't see why I was kicked out because I don't feel like I did anything wrong because I told somebody what you said to me. You obviously kicked me out because you knew you were in the wrong. You know, I feel that. Um, and my friend had a run-in with law enforcement. Some of you may have heard about. There was an incident when we went on a field trip to. It was a type of building where they talk about laws and stuff. I forget exactly where it is, but one of the state troopers touched his shoulder and told him to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, I think, when he was sitting down. So, that ended up getting a lot of attention. He ended up getting a lot of those state troopers retrained, and I was very happy about that. But I felt like it should have never had to been done. They should have already known not to do these things and not to put their hands on people if it's not completely necessary.
I guess I'll share. So yes, I've been placed in stereotypes before. Of course, like every day, like different microaggressions, like you talk white or you dress better than most, stuff like that. Specifically, I've experienced situations where I've been confronted with problems. So like this past summer, I work at a law firm in City Center, Jones, Blackman, Waltz, and Kelly, and you know, I it was like any other day. I was dressed for work, um, and I walked in, and usually there's a lady at the front desk that works there um, every day, and I see her every morning. But this time it was somebody different. It was a white lady, and I walked in, and I said good morning. She said, "Hi, how may I help you?" And I said, "Oh, nothing. I'm just going to work." And then I kept on walking, and she asked me, did I belong there, as if I had no business being there. And it kind of made me feel some type of way because I was wondering, like, I mean, I'm dressed in a suit. Why are you asking me, do I belong here? I'm coming to work. So I let her know that, you know, I work for an attorney and stuff like that. And she was saying, quote unquote, usually you don't see people that look like me. Whatever that meant, I don't know. I don't know what it meant. I didn't know how to take it. I carried on throughout my day, but it definitely felt really disheartening to hear that. Um, it made me feel weird, threw off my day. And secondly, I have had one run-in with the police before. Um, it was for speeding. This was during the time, I don't know if anybody knows, but they were doing a road work during that section between the Riverside Hospital and Warwick High School. They were improving the bridge on Lake Maury, and I was speeding. And when I was pulled over by the police sergeant, he told me why he pulled me over and everything. And I had my other friend in the car, and I let him know that, you know, I was sorry. I didn't realize I was going over the speed limit. I'll sign the ticket and go on with my day. But then I don't know why he asked me to step out of the vehicle and asked her to step out, placed us behind it and searched us. And I didn't know, you know, what was going on. This was during school because we were allowed to leave during our lunch break. So this happened maybe in a 30, 45-minute period of time. But that made me feel really uncomfortable as well. And I had no clue why he asked me to step out and search me, because I thought I was being pulled over for a simple speeding ticket. But it just goes to show how situations can go left real quick. Had I reacted a different way or acted the wrong way, I mean, who know? I may not even be sitting in front of you guys today. So, you know, stuff can go sideways real easily.
I could speak on the same situation too as Cameron. I have had a run-in with the police a couple of months back. When I first got my car, I had 30-day tags on my car, and I forgot where I was driving to, but I could see like a police officer was following me for like a long period of time, and I was just wondering like why. So then next thing you know, he pulled me over, and then he told me why he pulled me over is because of my tags and stuff. So he was during that time he was running my tags trying to see like if, you know, if my plate number or anything came up, which it didn't, because you know sometimes it doesn't come up. So then he pulled me over because of that. And then he was asking for proof of my insurance. I showed him. And then that's when he started asking me questions that didn't have anything to do with why he pulled me over. And my cousin was in the car also. And he was just asking questions about her, looking inside the car, trying to find something, I guess, you know, like another reason to why, like, you know, to pull me over as well. So then he didn't find anything wrong. So then he started to notice that, you know, I was familiar to him. So he asked me where I worked, and I guess because where I worked and stuff, he decided to let everything go. So I work in the hospital. So I guess he saw me there before. So I guess that's why he let the situation go. But I felt very uncomfortable. And like when I see police, like especially where I live, like my community is like it's kind of violent, but it's not very violent, and it makes me very very nervous because I know people like, you know, that had like, you know, issues with the police and stuff like that, and it just makes me very nervous. And it could be like a police is parked on the side somewhere, and I get very very nervous and I get scared. So like me having to run in with the police is just it's just a lot for me.
So Cameron said something that made me think about my internship that I had last year. Um, I was an intern for one of the senators, and it was downtown Richmond in the Pocahontas building. And every day I would come in, you know, I'm dressed professionally, I had my badge. These two state, I don't want to, okay, I'm gonna say state police. They would stand at the door and they would see me every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the day that I came in. And it just seemed like every time that I came in, they gave me a hard time, no matter how many times I showed my badge, no matter how many times I opened my bag, go through the metal detector. It was just always something. And it just made me feel like, they thought I didn't belong there. Even when I actually came in with one of the chief of staffs and legislative assistants, and they just constantly, well, let me check her, let me do this, and walk through here. And mind you, I have a badge so that you can see. I know that, it is very strict in there. They don't just let anybody in. But I think the only time I actually didn't get harassed was during session because it was so much, traffic in and out. But I didn't even realize that they were putting a stereotype on me because I would change my hair a lot. Sometimes I would wear braids, or I would wear a fro, or I would wear, a ponytail, or straighten my hair. But it was just always something. And every day I felt like I needed to dress even more professional because maybe if I dressed even more professional, they would not, harass me every time I come in, making me late or, missing hours or having a longer lunch break. So, thank you, Cameron, for saying that because it actually just opened my eyes a little bit to exactly what was going on.
We also have a panelist that just joined, so that's Robert. I'm gonna let him be the last to answer this question and introduce himself, saying what group he's a part of.
All right, everybody. My name is Robert Allen IV. I am 22 years old. I'm a member of Rise for Youth, also a current student at ECPI University studying for cybersecurity. This question actually touches pretty deep with me. I was originally, about 4 years ago, a freshman at Christopher Newport University, where this past May, actually would have been my senior year of college. However, because of an incident I was involved in after my freshman year, literally the weekend before classes started of my sophomore year, I was not able to attend. I was involved in a racial incident with another student to where I was called the N-word. While I would want to say and be hopeful that I had the support of everyone on campus and my students and friends, that was not the case. The situation was very hostile to where even after the situation occurred, I was arrested, taken to the ground by police officers because they said I was being violent and aggressive towards the individual. At no point in time did any of the police officers see and push me, any racial slurs being said towards me. The only thing that they saw was the moment when I pushed him back. Regardless of what anybody around me said, any viewers, anyone that had footage of the situation, regardless of what they said, it seemed like the officers were not listening to them at all. And I felt alone and by myself. Everyone then, once I even get to Newport News City Police Station, everyone says, oh, you'll be fine. It's your first offense. Don't worry about it. Wait a couple minutes. You'll be out 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour. I ended up staying in that jail for 14 days. I ended up being in front of a judge who did not like assault and battery cases. And regardless of whatever case I plead, she felt like my bond should not be given. It took me 3 tries to be able to get out as a first offender college student with a 4.0 GPA. Everything in front of me looked beautiful and perfect. I looked great on paper. I could stand in front of you, speak as professionally as needed to be. But because of the way I looked, I was not given the fair chance to even speak my case. But what feels good about the situation now is that 4 years later, while I may be home, while I maybe have chosen a different career path, I'm in a different major, a different school, what I have seen said from many friends that I went to school with, as well as some city officials and organization leaders back in the Newport News area, is that they have reached out to me to inform me of everything that is going on down in the Newport News area, including how the racial injustice and everything that I went through on campus is being heard about, how other students are going through similar situations. And now at the universities in that area, we're now raising awareness for it. So while I felt inferior, while I still feel alone, and while I had many moments where I kind of went through feeling like it was just me and I was by myself, I now feel like what I went through, I quote unquote had to be a sacrificial lamb. So what I went through set up the awareness and set up the attention and the spotlight that was needed in that area for attention to this issue to be given.
Okay, so I'm glad he brought up schools because that kind of brings us into our next topic. So we had Tanisha saying that in her neighborhood she doesn't feel safe around police officers, and you think school would be a safe place, but actually there is a type of law enforcement in schools, and that's SROs. So this next topic of questions is going to be on policing in schools. So the first question is, have you had any experiences with SROs in your school? If so, explain. So, I mean, if you're in college, you could bring it back to high school, or if you haven't, yeah.
I've had experiences with SROs. I just recently graduated from Heritage High School in Newport News. Heritage had like one or two uniform officers in the building, and they had one cop car that was always present in front of the building. We always had an abundance of security officers, upwards of like 6 or 7. And with the SROs came metal detectors, random searches, and this like a lot of extra security precautions. We will be searched before school on random days at random times. So as soon as we got off the bus, we would have to wait in one of 3 lines, and we have to make sure that all of our pockets and our book bags were open, and then we would have to walk through a metal detector while we had our book bag checked on the table to the side. If something in on our person went off through the big walk-through metal detector, we would have to be wanded down before getting our stuff back and having to get our stuff together before we went to class. We would have searches during class time where like we would have to open up all the pockets of our book bags and then leave the classroom while our stuff was searched. And if nothing was found, we just had to go back to class as business as usual. The SRO program I feel like was very ineffective because, like I think Denisha brought up, a lot of students already had a distrust and a discontent and an unsafe feeling with officers because of the things that they went through in their environment. And school was often that only safe haven that people had. So that one place where they could escape the adversity of their community, that one place where it was a guaranteed meal, that one place where it was like guaranteed attention, guaranteed pouring into, guaranteed fostering of a better environment. And then you bring something that was so disruptive in your community and bring it into the school building, and it kind of shakes up that safe environment, that comfort zone that allowed you to escape from your community. So I feel like the SRO program, though it was brought in to be something that was supposed to promote safety and brought in to be something that was supposed to increase the home feel of school, it ended up doing the opposite, and it ended up creating a more tense environment within the school system. And I felt like it didn't promote a safer school system because we still had threats towards our school, like bomb threats. We still had fights. We still had those things going on that they were supposed to curb. So that was my experience.
So I've never had a run-in. They really weren't around during my years of high school. They came during my senior year, but I wasn't there that much. But the only time that I actually saw it was when my sister got into an altercation at school. She was being bullied for a little bit, and when they finally, got into the fist fight, she was arrested and put in handcuffs, and they took her to the office. And um, my mom was so upset, and everybody was so upset, and I just kept thinking, why? This was. I understand it was an altercation, it was something serious, people are fighting, but is that the first thing that you go to is arresting kids in school? And then the second thing that happened with my youngest sister, she didn't have a ticket for a basketball game, and the one of the school officers told her that she needed to leave. So I guess she didn't leave right away. She was waiting for a friend, and one of the principals came to her and said, "If you don't leave, I'm going to call the police on you." Why is that the first thing? Instead of just saying, "Okay, I'm going to ask you again to leave." So I've never seen it, but just hearing the stories, I don't like it at all.
So I have to agree with the young lady who just spoke. I never had a run-in with SROs at my high school, but maybe just a comment or a solution that could help alleviate things of that nature is one, not having them there, but also having options put in place. So if I'm already coming to school having a bad day before I already get there with the issues I'm dealing with at home and in my community with the over policing and the traumatic things that's already going on in my community, then when I get to school, seeing the SROs isn't making it any better. So maybe having like, a mood card or something where students who's already feeling tense on edge, aren't being picked on through the eyes of the SROs. That's a comment.
I'm in my second year of college, but thinking back to high school, my experience is very different than most of yours. My SRO actually was like a really genuine, cool person, really nice person, good heart. He was the type of guy like if somebody didn't have lunch money, he'd pick up the tab, or if you didn't have money to get in a basketball game, he'll let you slide in, for free. He was a really good guy, and we never had any problems with him. He was one that people really loved, sad to see go. And I think that it shows the difference in assumptions based on social standards of certain areas of our city. Once again, downtown Newport News is labeled as a bad area. So, a school like Heritage, their assumption is that they need to beef up security and send the best of the best, whoever that may be. And I feel like it's a shame that students are robbed of that experience or that breath of fresh air, that maybe there are some good people out here that we just don't encounter day to day. That was an SRO that, started multiple programs at our school, and I actually look forward to talking to and having a conversation with sometimes, just because he was an all around nice guy. So I've never had a bad experience at all with our SRO.
I can agree. Our SOs, they were really like, cool and nice and stuff. But I feel like it was no purpose of them being there. Like what Destiny said, I feel like it's other programs or other resources instead of the SROs. I just feel like, it could be, they could use that money that they use on the SROs for like programs. And that's just how I feel about, the SROs.
So yeah, building on what Destiny said, she did talk about students maybe having problems because they're bringing trauma from their community. So the next question is, what are some issues or traumas from your home life that impact your focus in school as a Black youth?
Well, during my 7th grade year, a friend of mine passed away during the school year, and I feel like that really did impact school because I was thinking, wow, like she's the same age as me, and she's just gone from the flu, like nothing, like wow, something so little that everybody's getting. I never thought could take away someone so special in my life. And I feel like that impacted the entire school because she had lots of friends. She was a very nice person. And yeah, it just really made me think.
I can think of a situation when I was in 10th grade. We had a big house fire, and my room got most of the damage. So all of my clothes and everything was destroyed, and I didn't go to school for weeks because I didn't have anything. And because of that, I missed a lot of days, and I got served to go to court. And they said if I missed another day of school, I would, have to serve time in jail. And that bothered me because I just needed somebody there. I needed somebody to see what was going on, to see how they could help me or my family during that time, but we didn't have that. And so, like Destiny said, and Lux also said, if they can just put some of that extra money into programs to see exactly what's going on. I know they have truancy, but the truancy, I guess, just rides around to see if the kids are going to come to school or not. But I live in Eastern Henrico, and I didn't have that. They didn't send truancy to my house. They didn't do any of that. They just served it right up. But that's one thing that I dealt with, and a lot of students deal with death or substance misuse in their families, or someone who's incarcerated, or maybe, abuse at home. And I just think if we had somebody there to really check on that student, if the teachers are noticing their peers, maybe they feel like they could confide in somebody, then we can address those needs.
So I want to add to what she said as well. Something like I never experienced like a lot of traumatizing things that I had to experience going to school, but something that really impacted me was losing one of a close friend, a close peers of mine in 8th grade, and just the weight of that. One day you go to seeing a person every day in school, and the next minute their life is taken due to gun violence. So that's already enough. And then seeing and just watching my other peers, having to deal with, having to basically be an adult at a young age. That's already enough on their shoulders, because parents got to work, whatever issues is going on through at home. So you're basically making a child become an adult, and they have to, they may miss school because they have to take care of their younger brothers or take care of their younger sisters. Sometimes they go to school because, that's their meal to eat. So it's so many different things that's going on, different factors. So, their emotional state might not be at the best to have that nice productive day. So I would say that's my intake.
I agree with Destiny. I didn't have that many like two personal experiences with losing people, but I had a lot of friends that did, especially during our late middle school and high school careers, with losing a lot of people our age to gun violence. And so I saw that kind of shift within them, like where their focus was everywhere but where they were at that moment. And I feel like that played a big role in how they behaved and some of the stuff they got into, because they were just trying to do any and everything to distract themselves from the things that were going on at home and in their environment. I've had friends that had to deal with homelessness during school, had friends that had to deal with parents that were substance abuse, and it's a lot of teenagers and young children have to go through that is outside of school that can impact how they interact with people inside the school building. And so I definitely agree with Destiny and all the other panelists when it was said that the funds that were used to fund the SRO program really need to be reallocated into like mental health services that can really address the traumas that the students go through way before they even enter the school building.
I also want to piggyback off that as well. Going into my senior year, actually, when I was attending Hampton High School, my brother actually was killed due to gun violence at YH Thomas. That for me, was already actually being bullied, so I already didn't like who I was or anything that was going on. My brother was actually the only person that I felt like could see me, like he could see what I could do. So when he was killed and I had to continue to go to school, as Kamaya said, I was served truancy papers as well. Um, I had to have a whole meeting with the dean, police officers, and at one time I was escorted to the mental home on a TDO order, which is a temporary detained order. I had to stay, I want to say almost a week. I knew that I was depressed and grieving, but I didn't think that I needed all of that. At the time, I was escorted in a police car like I was a criminal to the mental home. So it at that time it was just a lot, and I didn't understand. And to go from school to the mental home on the police car, it just made me feel like a criminal. And like they said, I just feel like certain programs or counselors could have been, if they were available at that time, a different route could have been taken.
So before we move on to the next section, I just wanted to ask the legislators here, do they have any questions or anything that they would like to hear us speak more about before we move on to the next section of questions that we have prepared?
Yeah, so I want to say thank you all for sharing your stories, especially those you guys have hit some local, state, and federal issues. So you have no idea how rich this conversation has already been. So I do hope that there is an opportunity for us to have more interaction. But I do have a question. How do you define safety? Like in your life where you are now, how would you define safety?
I would define safety as not elimination, because I feel like it's always going to be there, but just a reduction of fear, like a reduction of the things that we are fearful of. Like we are, as children, we are fearful of so many things because so many things are unknown. And I feel like as Black youth, that's only amplified by the stereotypes and the different systemic things that are put in place that can work against us. So I feel like safety for me will be a space where everybody can work in cohesion. Like we're not apprehensive of a certain group or a certain task force or a certain entity, where we can go places and not be afraid of somebody criminal hurting us or be afraid of somebody in law enforcement hurting us, where we could just go somewhere and feel free to be our age, feel free to be a kid, feel free to be youthful, feel free to make mistakes and not feel like we would be penalized to highest content for making a mistake as a youth. And that's what I feel like safety is for me.
Safety is a physical sense, it is an emotional sense, it's a mental sense. One of the biggest things that she said, safety, I think, really heavily deals with inclusion. One of the things that separates some police officers and some SROs from others is those that show that they can truly connect with us and understand us. If individuals feel left out, they don't feel safe. If individuals feel inferior, they don't feel safe. If individuals feel afraid, they don't feel safe. If I am physically somewhere that looks warm and welcoming to me, I will feel safe. If I see people who smile to me, people who will speak to me without looking down upon me because maybe I've had a rough day, or maybe I don't look the best. Maybe I got in an accident and my shirts are all tattered. Maybe my hair appointment got canceled, so I don't look as professional as I would prefer to be. However, if I'm not judged by that, then that allows people to feel safe and feel more comfortable. And when someone else feels comfortable, I think it begins this chain reaction that truly happens in a lot of communities of when one person feels safe, I feel comfortable letting someone else feel safe. And it becomes this giant community thing. So I feel another part of that is a sense of community is what safety is.
So if I would have to describe safety, I guess I would break it down to 4 words. The first one would be communication. In anything you have to communicate. So like he said, if he's having a bad day, then communicate. Your first instinct isn't to attack. Communicate. You know what I'm saying? Another word would be demilitarizing. It is no reason why police officers should be walking around with militarized guns and attire. It's just no. We're not terrorists in our own community. We live here. This is our home. So we're not in the Middle East. So there's no reason why that should even be a option in the scenario. Another word would be, for me, would be respect. Respect is given. It's a two-way street. I give you respect, you give me respect. So sometimes just the tone and how people communicate ties hand in hand with respect. If you talking to me in an aggressive tone, I'm going to talk to you in an aggressive tone. That's how some people mindsets are. So just having that as a common courtesy, I think defines safety. And like I think Kalia said, occlusiveness, or somebody said inclusiveness. So just being inclusive to everybody, stop, shedding one light on one group. Like everybody lives together. We're all humans. We all bleed the same. So all that, you know, categorizing, that has to cease in order to be safe.
I think peace of mind, when I would describe safety, I would think peace of mind. Um, the Black body is a guilty body, so always on edge about watching our back from not just police, but other people that may be out to get us. And I feel that everything about what they just said, is all what safety should include. And I feel like we shouldn't have to walk around worried that that police officer we just walked past on the street is going to double back and put us in handcuffs. I feel like we shouldn't have to worry about grieving over a lost loved one or doing what children like to do in the street is going to get us thrown in jail. So I feel like peace of mind is definitely, when I hear safety, that's what I think about.
When I hear safety, I think about being transparent with one another. Like Destiny said, communication is so important. I feel safe knowing that when I'm talking to somebody, they can let that guard down first and tell me a little bit more about them so that we can connect. And then I'll be able to let my guard down, and then we can go into a deeper conversation. You can understand why I am the way that I am. You can respect me and as an individual, and I can respect you. So it's all wrapping together. So when I think about, sorry, skipping. So that's what I think about. And the first thing that comes to mind when I thought about that was, in social work, we say we respect the dignity and worth of a person.
So we do got to move on because I'm not trying to go over time. So I'm gonna ask just this question about youth contribution. Why is the youth voice so important within the conversation of transforming policing across our nation?
Um,
Oh, okay. But I feel like the youth voice is imperative in this conversation because we are the future people who are going to be police. So I feel like if we are going to be the future of who the police will be interacting with the most, I feel like we should have a stake in what's going on within transforming policing. And I also feel like we're important because we have many stories. Like just on this call alone, we've heard so many different stories about so many different encounters and interactions from people who are just now getting into their 20s. So most of these interactions happened when they were teenagers. So you're getting insight into what it's like to be a child and the adultification of Black children that happens very so often. So without the youth voice, you wouldn't hear these stories. You wouldn't hear the impact that policing truly has on some of the most impacted communities. So I feel like our voice is super imperative because without it, you really wouldn't know what was going on in the down sectors. You will only know what's going on within the institutions and within those safe spaces. It removes people out of their place of comfort and puts them into a place where reality sets in.
I would have to say in 2 words why young voices are important. First off, we have to collaborate. Like youth, you cannot silence youth. Like we're not radical, we're intelligent. So we're going to hold you accountable. Every delegate on this line, we're gonna make sure that we hold you accountable because we are the ones that help put you in those places. So like I said, accountability and taking action. Everybody plays an important role in everything. So I would say accountability and collaboration, is very important in helping shape the youth's voice and making sure that they're heard because, like I said, you cannot silence.
um, I think it's connected to who our generation is. With all due respect to you guys, not calling anyone out by age or anything like that, but the generations before us were kind of taught to be what my mom would call in a child's place. Our generation kind of varied from that to where we have now caused our generation and the children to question a lot of things. So anything that's not understood, anything that we don't understand why it is the way it is, our generation has been known to question, to find out why, to interrogate, to look for a specific answer. The same as a child, where I will continually ask, but why, but why, but why, until there is no more but whys the child can ask you. Now we've taken that into our age to now question everything that we have taught have I'm sorry, everything that we have been taught is the way it is just because. We no longer believe that it's just because. We're a part of a microwave generation that believes everything needs to be done now. And I think the age of us has caused us to be impatient. Our impatience pushes change to happen because there's no longer this thing of we can sit and wait and the change is going to come. We're now like, okay, time has been long enough. A change needs to happen now, or else something will be said, and we will take matters into our own hands. Our generation is the pushers and movers. We have tunnel vision when it comes to goal setting, but lateral thinking when it comes to handling something. So lateral thinking being we know how to think outside of the box and find other ways other than what someone has already seen. Tunnel vision being that, as Will Smith often says about what his father taught him, we make a mission, we stick to the mission, we see it through. There's no such thing as failure. There's no such thing as it didn't work out. We see it through and we make it happen regardless of by any means necessary.
I guess before I say this, I want y'all to know that Robert is my cousin. So our parents are very, very alike in thinking. And he said exactly what I was going to say before I said it. And I think that it's important to know the groups that we're dealing with and we're talking to when we give our voice. It's an education thing. And I think, once again, no offense to that older generation, but a lot of people in the older generation feel as if because we are younger, we can't teach them any more than they already know. But I think that that's not the case. Like I feel as youth, we have a lot to offer, a lot of different perspectives and knowledge that can fill the gaps that maybe the older generation didn't get or doesn't have or was taught differently. And I think especially when it comes to modern times, it's good to hear the youth's voice because we are directly affected by what's happening now at a closer proximity than those that are older than us. So it's good to hear that from the modern perspective. And then in addition to our older counterparts, also the people behind us as well, the younger kids. You've got kids seeing stuff in the news, seeing what's going on, and they have no clue what's actually happening other than what parents may tell them, which kind of is the problem in a first place in a way. We have to be able to take our younger siblings or our younger cousins, younger members of our community and let them know, hey, this is what's going on. This is how we can solve this issue because truth be told, I don't want to grow up and have kids and have my kids in fear of their life on a day-to-day basis. I don't want my younger sister to, go through high school being in fear of her life on a day-to-day basis. So I feel like the youth voice is very important to not only bring up the generation behind us, but also educate the people that came before us on current issues and how it affects us in today's terms versus the early 2000s or the 90s or the 80s. You know what I mean?
I also think that the voice of the youth is very imperative because, like, first of all, the generation right now, we're just very honest and very truthful. We don't have time to be beating around the bush because it's just things that needs to be done. And I feel like that's very needed right now because yes, in the end, we do want to have a common ground. But if I'm beating around the bush about my experience with you, so we don't butt heads, we're never going to actually get to the problem because I'm not telling you exactly what it is. And I feel like the fact that our generation is very held on being truthful and accountability. I feel like that is very needed right now in what's going on in our state, in the world, just in general.
I know we got to move on, but I just wanted to say, wrapping everybody's together, the thing that came to my mind was we are the youth who are trying to break that cycle from the school to prison pipeline. That's it.
So yeah, we had a lot of outspoken youth just answer this question. So I do want to also pass this on to the legislators on this panel, and asking, like, what do you think about this? What do you think is the greatest youth contribution to this conversation? Do you think youth are leading the fight or just supporting it?
Can I jump in real quick? So I just want to say, echo the sentiments of my colleague, Delegate Price. Thank you for telling your stories. I think I'm looking around. I think I'm the bridge in between the gap here. I'm 30 years old. I'm one of the youngest delegates in the House. And it's been amazing to hear your stories. And I'm gonna tell you why. Everything that you've been talking about and things you've been saying has been in the back of my head, but I kind of like, I don't know if I can say that in the House of Delegates, I don't. But what's so amazing is my grandmother's generation. My grandmother is 80 years old and my mom is 54. That generation was kind of like, oh, we're gonna do what we gotta do, but let's not press the mold too bad. Let's not shake it up too much, but we're gonna make a little bit of change. We're gonna do a little bit of things. And I found out that our generation now, those who are my age, who are younger, just a little bit older than me, we found out that our grandparents and our mothers and dad in them, maybe they couldn't shake it up, but we're now in a position where we can shake it up for them. Where they couldn't do it, we're going to do it. And we have to make sure that we shift the narrative and control the narrative now, that we have a little bit of power, that we have a little bit of position to elevate the voices of each other. And so that's why I'm extremely grateful for Rise for You, for everyone else who's come together tonight, because not only are you lifting up your voices, but you have legislators on this call. When I was 20 years old, when I was 15 years old, I didn't have opportunities like this. And now we are sitting here on these calls. You all have at least 6 legislators that you are telling your personal stories to. For us to go back to Richmond next week and say, this is what I heard and this is why I'm fighting. And so I appreciate that. And you all are not, it may sound funky, but y'all are not supporting the movement. You are the movement. You are leading and you are changing, because in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, y'all will be in our seats. You will be the judges. You will be the legislators. You will be the business owners. You will be the teachers. You will be the mentors in your communities. And so you start now by lifting up your voices. And so I'm excited. Y'all, I'm ready to get to work for you. I'm gonna put my information in the chat. I ain't going nowhere until we're done, but I'm gonna put my information in the chat. And so if you have any questions or concerns, or you feel like you need just someone to vent to, or you have some ideas about legislation, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, because I love hearing from you all.
Yeah, I just want to say ditto to what Delegate Cole said, but I think one of the things that the leading from the front is the amount of youth that have been on the front line. So I can't speak for everyone, but I know at least 4 of us have put in some of the very bills that you all have on your list of demands at least twice, if not, Delegate Ward, I'm gonna let you tell your story, but if not even longer. But the difference is the amount of energy that you all had on the front lines allows for us to carry those bills again with an entirely different just vibe. I have had people call me that have said racist things to me, that have just been an obstacle to a lot of the things that I've been working on. And they're like, all right, so we know, okay, how can we help you get this done? Because it's got to get done. So y'all are changing mindsets just by the pressure that you're putting on. And then you add to that, I mean, Delegate Cole, I've talked to some of them on a different chat. They're already leading organizations. They're leading movements like right now. And so just keep that pressure on so that when we get there, we don't give you just a bill that has the title of what you're asking for. It has the substance of what you're asking for as well. And we need that pressure to stay on there. So you're absolutely leading. You have created the environment so that we can continue to get to work on the House Democratic Caucus agenda and the Virginia Legislative Black Caucus agenda that is very much aligned with what I am hearing that you all need in our community. So I love it. Love it.
All right, so with that being said, we're just gonna get on to maybe some solutions that our youth could present to our legislators before they go up to special sessions, just leaving y'all with some ideas. So the first question would be for our panelists is, what money what should the money that is taken away from the police to go forward? Oh, we see Delegate Gian Ward wants to speak. I'll let her go real quick.
I just had something to say because you're talking about age, and I figure I better chime on in as one of the oldest, but it's okay because I just want to say some of what you're looking at right now, we did experience a long time ago. So some of these things, we kicked open the doors to make it a little bit easier. So not only am I am the age of some of your grandparents. So I have raised my sons, they were all boys, so they're in their 40s. Now I have a grandson who stands 6 feet 4 inches tall, 21 years old. So I've been there after each generation, and I see each generation carries it just a little bit further. But just don't forget that we were active. I just want you to know, I'm a child of the 70s, and we changed everything. We shut down the Vietnam War, stuff you don't know nothing about. But I congratulate you, I applaud you, but you all are doing a fantastic job. And there are things that we've been doing for a long time. I've been in the General Assembly for like 17 years. So some of the legislation that I first carried did not pass. One piece was bias-based policing. But to let you know how important elections matter, we carried that bill a couple of years. And now this year, we have a Democratic majority, and now that same bill that I carried some 15 so years ago is being implemented, which means if you're pulled over, you're gonna have to, the law enforcement officer will have to write down exactly the race of the person, ethnicity, and the reason why they pulled them over and what happened after that. So we are making changes. We've been working, but I want you to keep working too. And some of you with Rise for Youth, you know, I've been right with you on that front line the whole time. We still going back. We're going to still work on some of those issues that we've been talking about with our incarcerated youth. We're going to keep doing that because that's so important. So, I mean, you keep on pushing us, but we're in a position to do it right now. So that's what I see that's so important is that we need you and you need us. We're going to do this thing together. Now my
okay. Okay, Delegate Ward, she said she walked so y'all could run. All right. Back to our panelists. So for one of our questions we had, if money is taken away from our police, what other programs in your community would you like to see that money put forward?
Can I speak on this first? So, I remember when I was at elementary school, they had this program called Big Sisters and Big Brothers. I don't know if y'all ever heard of that before, but it's kind of like a mentoring program. And I feel like, you know, it's people that you get matched with that's kind of like you're related to. Like, you know, you have the same, like, you know, like you share the same interests as them. And I feel like they should bring that back into the school system. So I feel like, but they should, like, you know, redo it and try to put it into high schools because I feel like that was a good program. And I feel like I was kind of in a program similar to that when I was in I think it was elementary school because I was dealing with a lot of stuff at elementary school. So I feel like that program helped me a lot, deal with a lot of issues. I'm sorry about that. So I feel like they should definitely bring that back into the school system. And also like trauma resource centers. I feel like that would help students a lot with trauma that they, you know, dealt with like at home or like, you know, within school or, you know, what have you. So I feel like programs would like that would definitely help out a lot.
I definitely agree.
Go ahead.
Alright. But I definitely agree with what she said. I feel like there's a lot of money that goes towards policing. I know for Newport News, it's upwards of like 50 million that goes towards policing. And I feel like just a fraction of that, like even just 1 million that was put into grassroots organizations, like Denisha said, a trauma center, just things that can help to more on the preventative side because police officers are first responders. So they're always going to come after the fact. But we need stuff that's going to prevent those crimes from happening in the first place. So funding grassroots organizations, I know we got a lot on this call right now, like Rise for Youth, Abu Unity, Us for Us, and it's a lot of them that are really have the credible messengers and have the messages that can really touch the youth that are most impacted. And so I feel like if we give funding to those organizations, that could curb people from having to be in police presence to begin with, and it could build a healthier community and heal some of the things that the children were talking about on this call, like heal some of the traumas that they've seen.
Um, Education, education, education. I really think that money should be put into the education system as a whole. Um, Firstly, there's no reason that teachers should be making, chump change. Like as much as they go through, as much as they do for us, um, teachers should be able to have a comfortable living wage at that. I don't think that they should be making as little as $40,000 a year. Like definitely at least twice that. Based on the time that they put in, the effort they put in, the amount of heart that they put into teaching. A lot of teachers don't. Teaching is not a profession that you go into just because you need something to do. It's something you go into because you care, meaning you have the patience and the drive and the will to help those that you are teaching. So there's no reason that if people put in that much effort into teaching people like you and I, that they should be making whatever's left from giving money to unnecessary professions out here in the world. And secondly, there is no reason that schools should be struggling to pull together funding to give students basic textbooks or at least up-to-date textbooks. There's no reason we should be reading textbooks from 1990 or 1980 that don't even have adequate information in it. I think that if you can give police officers high-tech, take Newport News, for example, a department that's comprised of maybe 500 police officers. There's no reason they need high-tech tanks and bulletproof armored vehicles for what, maybe 5 or 6 hostage negotiations a year. That's a problem. Like that is money going towards that hundreds of $1,000s you spend on that could be spent on new textbooks for students, laptops for disadvantaged students, pencils, pens, backpacks. I don't remember who it was that had the house fire, but there's no reason that, number one, she should have to go to school without any supplies or clothing or anything like that. And number two, that nobody from the school had the money to reach out and say, hey, we can buy you these things for the time being so that you can attend school and get your education until we can find you something permanent. It's a problem that the money's going into the wrong place. And not even stopping at the textbook themselves, but also the information that is presented in those textbooks. A lot of the information that we learn in history is either left with empty holes or just taught incorrectly. There was no such thing as voluntary servitude, or Malcolm X wasn't necessarily an evil man. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of that stuff is taught wrong and put in textbooks the wrong way. And I feel like there's so many different things in the education system as a whole, because the United States in general just doesn't prioritize education like it should be. And I think on the state level, like if you were to cut funding or decrease funding from the police, the first thought in my mind is that it needs to go towards education.
I want to elaborate on what he just said. I agree. Definitely, money should go to education. You know, like you said, increasing teacher wages, because at the end of the day, those teachers do take on problems that, I feel like money should go towards resources to help teachers being able to handle the problems of their students that they're interacting with. A lot of times, teachers may not, understand how to deal with a student that deals with a lot of trauma. So just making sure that they have the money to, be able to train in that area definitely should be another another way. Definitely infrastructure for sure for giving money towards, because that might motivate, students. There's no reason why I might go to a white high school and their building looks like a full-blown campus, and then I go downtown Newport News to Heritage High School and it looks like, it hasn't been updated in 10 years, what I'm saying? And even coming from an HBCU, we're just not as funded when it comes to PWI. So that's definitely something that we need to look at as a whole, definitely with the education system.
So before we end out, there's one last question, and this one is for legislators. So we wanted to ask, where is your presence alongside this whole movement that we're talking about? And when we go up for special session, are you going to take what we're talking about and go up to bat for us?
So I feel like I'm always talking, but absolutely. When I tell you that this conversation has been fruitful, I have several pages of notes. And it's just because there are some things that we experience as adults or that we know as adults that your voices have absolutely confirmed, but added to and to see in different ways. And one thing that I just want to clarify for when we're talking about reallocation, I want you guys to be sure, well, if you should choose, to be sure in how you ask for that. It's not just a simple shifting of funds. It is a total paradigm shift in how we are going about valuing what it is we're funding. And so if we're looking at the peer model, prevention, intervention, enforcement, and reentry, if all of the money is going into enforcement, then we are showing that it is not being valued in that prevention. Everything Cameron just said about the education system, I would put completely under prevention. And so if that money is going into enforcement, like Kalia said, it's already too late. The thing has already happened. But the systems have to be shaken as well. We don't want to just shift from an inequitable enforcement to inequitable prevention. So say for instance, if we have civilian review boards, or if we have crisis response teams, when we say who has to be on it, if we're saying that they have to be a licensed clinician, is that by definition because of lived experience, meaning that we won't have as many diverse voices at the table? Does that mean that peer counselors can't be there who have lived experience with the thing? Or smaller nonprofits, if they don't have a full-time grant writer, does that mean that they don't really get the same equitable opportunity for funding? So it's more than just shifting of funds. It is a true redefinition of what safety is, of what public safety is, and what we're valuing. And so one last thing about what the session will look like. Unfortunately, I've heard from some of my colleagues that because of the pandemic, we're not going to have as much money. And so some people hear that and are like, oh, our priorities are going to have to wait. And that's absolutely patently false. If you are creative with what we're doing with the money, if we're spending more in prevention and we know by definition that there will be a cost savings, then we should be reallocating that cost savings into more prevention. And so we can't go into this budgetary conversation in special session talking about just what has to be cut. And so I just want to keep your ears open for some of those buzzwords so that you don't take them at face value and just continue to dig deeper and just always read the bill. Just because the summary says that it might have to do with it, if it's not the full thing that you asked for, then we need to continue to fight more. And so I look forward to what we're gonna what we're going to get during special session and 2021, 2022, 2023, and continue that until we have full freedom and the safety that you all envision that you need becomes a reality for you. So thank you for this opportunity to hear from you.
Again, thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. I just wanted to jump on and say, absolutely, I stand fully behind your agenda. We sent a response to all the questions that were asked earlier today. There were some of the bills that I was personally going to carry that got pushed to 2021. So the SRO bill, I used to be a behavior aide in Huguenot High School in Richmond. So I do know the experiences that many of our students have faced with the school resource officer. So I'll definitely be looking into that for the general session. And we have to make sure we're pushing forward. And so I tell people this all the time. We don't need to fix the system, because the system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And for many of us, it was designed to keep us down. Many people don't even realize that the police force were used to capture slaves back in the day. And so that's still what they're doing now, because they have to capture somebody to do the slave work in the jails. And they still need to find people to go in there and do it now. And so we have to make sure that we are shifting, as Delegate Price said, a paradigm shift. That's not just an inch moving, that means a complete shifting and making something brand new. I'm a preacher, so y'all got to excuse me for a second, because there is a mental note. It's something called metanoia. Metanoia is a Greek word which means a mental breakdown, but then the subsequent rebuilding of the mind. And so when we think about how America has built on, we can't expect to fix little things here and there and expect that it's going to get better. The mentality of America was built on racism and holding poor people down. So if you don't have a metanoia experience of having a mental breakdown in America, spiritually, emotionally, economically, and then rebuilding it up on another solid foundation, we're never going to be equal. We're never going to be viewed equal. Poor people are never going to get the come up. So we have to make sure that we have the right legislators, the right community leaders, the right organizers, the right judges, the right people in the seats of power when it comes time to make transformation. And that's why I believe you all are here today to share with us, and that you all are leading so that you can be those right voices when the time come up. So you definitely got me on that, and we are going to keep fighting for you all. So thank you.
I would like to second what my colleagues have said. You all have been so articulate, and you have shared your rich stories, and it's a privilege to be here with you. I'd like to identify also with my colleague, Delegate Ward, who kind of maybe in the same age range. If you might have seen, I'm kind of babysitting my grandchildren tonight. But I want to second what she said about, how people, we've been trying for a number of years to get some of these things done. And I know just the other night at a community meeting, there were parents who wanted to know how to talk to their children and what to say to them about something like police stops. And there is something that she maybe mentioned, page 25 in the Virginia Driver's Manual that has all of that listed out. And that was because of what Delegate Ward put in 2016. So, we will continue, as she said, a lot of stuff for us to still do, a lot of major things that we need to do to get that changing around, the metanoia that Delegate Cole is talking about. And the way that Delegate Price has been always so articulate about the way we need to go. But it's just a privilege to be with you here tonight, to hear your stories. Thank you for sharing them. And thank you for keeping on us and keeping in touch with us and letting us know, keeping the pressure on so that we can continue to do the work for you that is going to carry us into the future in a wonderful way. Thank you.
And if I could just add, I think what you're witnessing here is history being made. And it's really, sometimes it's hard when you're in the middle of something like this historic happening to recognize it, but you're really the engine that's driving it. And it's not just because in 2019 the Democrats took back the House and the Senate in Virginia. It's much, much more than that. And the ground is shifting, and you're leading this effort. And so the things that you have mentioned tonight, and that's part of your platform, have just confirmed for me this evening in listening to you just what it's all about when we go back on Tuesday. This is the reason we're going back. And minds are being changed too on a daily basis. Bills that didn't pass just 4 or 5 months ago are going to pass. Years ago, people did not believe that there was a problem. Now recognize that there's a problem that has to be solved. We need to change our laws to make this kind of discrimination, not just say it's wrong or it's not right to do something like that, to make it illegal. to do this. And there will be accountability and there'll be transparency. And yes, there'll be training. And we are going to go back and look at the foundation in which all of this racism was built. And we're going to take a wrecking ball to it and make real change. And I think you are the engine. You are seeing it happen before your eyes. And I want to thank you for this evening's. Everybody was very articulate, very candid, and thank you for your candor in sharing your personal stories, because that's what really makes the difference. At least for me, it crystallizes it for me. It just confirms the motivation that 55 of my colleagues on our side and some on the other side. I don't want to make this to be a partisan thing, that people are coming and really want to make an effort to solve this problem. And so I want to thank you for this evening, because I've actually learned probably more tonight than any forum I participated in.
Well, that's great to hear. So just to end us out, because it's 6:30 right now, I just wanted to thank all the legislators for listening to what we had to say. We had some great, outspoken, intelligent, beautiful Black panelists on here today. I'm going to say all their names. We got Kalia, Robert, Ayana, Denisha, Kamaya, Destiny. I think that's everybody that's on. Cameron, couldn't forget that. I just wanted to give a shout out to all y'all for using your voices and leading the movement. There was several groups that participated in this panel. So that's Rise for Youth. We're a group committed to dismantling the youth prison system. We have ABO Unity, we have Us for Us, and we have the Activated People as well. So if there's anything to close us out, I would like to say, again, thank you for listening. We really want to see a change happen. So we hope when y'all go up there, y'all remember our faces and remember the power that we held in this panel and what we had to say. And yeah, I just wanted to thank y'all for coming, and everybody who's listening and watching live on Facebook as well.
Real quick, before everybody leaves, I just wanted to remind everybody before we go that voter registration status, or to register to vote, like, make sure that with this activated energy that we have, and we are motivated and we are moving to vote and to register to vote. So make sure you guys, I'll drop it in the chat, make sure you guys go to vote.elections.virginia.gov/voter information, and that will make sure that you have your registration status in line and that you are registered to vote. The voter registration deadline is Tuesday, October 13th, 2020. And if you would like to have more information on the work that we're doing in Virginia with transforming police and all of the wonderful work that we're going to be doing with the delegates and with statewide leaders across the state, make sure you guys email transformpolice@gmail.com or visit the website, theactivatedpeople.com, and they will have all information about all the work that we're doing for transforming police. And I will be sure to link all of this stuff in the chat.
All right, thank you guys so much. And then also, we do want to give a giant shout out and thank you to the National Action Network for all of their support as well. And everybody have a good night.
Thank y'all. Have a good one.